There's a moment in every life when the air feels thick, the doors stay shut, and the silence from heaven feels like a verdict. You've prayed, fasted, worshipped, waited, and yet everything still seems to collapse around you. You sit in a storm, wondering, where is God now? And if you're honest, you start to think maybe the system is broken, maybe the plan has failed, maybe what you believed isn't holding up under the weight of real pain. But I want to tell you something tonight, not from opinion, but from the ancient truth echoed through the chambers of eternity. God's timing is not man's panic, and his silence is never absence, it's strategy. What you call a system failure, heaven calls a setup. The issue is not that God isn't moving. The issue is we've trained our eyes to see movement only when it looks like progress. But heaven doesn't move the way earth does. He doesn't operate on your anxiety. He doesn't move by votes, polls, or human permission. He waits until the moment when every crutch you leaned on is gone, when every idol is shaken, when every plan you tried has exhausted itself, and only then he speaks. By this time tomorrow, that word only carries weight when it's spoken into the face of delay, despair, and destruction. If everything was fine, you wouldn't need that promise, but because you're in the place where nothing is working, when the system has failed, now you're in the exact position for a divine reversal. Let me tell you, God's calendar does not run on the same ink as yours. You mark your days by clocks and deadlines. He marks them by destiny. What looks like delay is not denial. What feels like failure is not final. It's in the collapse that God begins his construction. It's in the breakdown that he builds the breakthrough. You see, God often waits until Pharaoh is laughing, until Goliath is taunting, until the Red Sea is in front of you and Pharaoh's army is behind you. Then he moves. Why? Because heaven is not interested in partial victories. Heaven is after impossible victories. Victories that don't make sense in the natural. Victories that only heaven can author. Victories that carry his fingerprint alone. And hear me clearly, if God allowed the system to break, it's because the system was never your source. The job wasn't your source. The relationship wasn't your anchor. The bank account wasn't your security. He let it break to rebuild you on what cannot be shaken. So now here you are, standing in the ruins of your logic, your plans, your strength, and just when you think it's over, God speaks not a sermon, not a suggestion, not a soft whisper, but a decree. By this time tomorrow, that's not motivational talk. That's a courtroom declaration from the throne of the Almighty. That means heaven has judged your case. That means the evidence of your pain has been presented before the King. And the verdict is in, enough is enough. The delay has expired, the darkness has reached its limit. The struggle has met its ceiling, and God is saying, I'm stepping in. You see, when man's system fails, God's voice becomes more powerful. Why? Because there's no longer any competition. There's no more committee of opinions. No more distractions from the noise of your own strategies. Now it's just you and the Word. And when God speaks a word like, by this time tomorrow, it's because something has already shifted in the heavenlies. Something is already in motion. The armies of angels have already been dispatched. The miracle is already walking toward your doorstep. You may not see it yet in the natural, but the moment he said it, the command was sealed. Do not mistake the silence after the word as a sign that nothing is happening. Sometimes the quiet is sacred because while you're wondering if God is moving, he's orchestrating the kind of shift that will rewrite your entire story. It's not just about giving you what you lost. It's about giving you what was never possible without the breaking. So if you feel like the system has failed you, if you're sitting in a moment that feels like the end, remember this. You are standing exactly where heaven needed you to be. Not for your destruction, but for your demonstration, because when the dust settles and the fire fades and the morning comes, You won't just be delivered, you'll be transformed. By this time tomorrow, and then it comes the word. You're in the midst of the storm, buried beneath disappointment, surrounded by delay, breathing the heavy air of doubt. And just when it seems the night will never end, a voice clearer than the chaos, louder than the fear, cuts through and declares, by this time tomorrow. Now hear me, this is not fantasy, not poetic fluff for the emotionally desperate. This is prophetic precision. It's not a maybe, it's not a suggestion, it's not an encouragement wrapped in soft language to make you feel better. No, when God says, by this time tomorrow, it is the collision point of eternity stepping into your temporary. It's heaven placing its full weight on a moment in time, declaring that your condition is not beyond redemption and your timing is not out of reach. You see, we're used to promises that are vague. One day, we're told, eventually, they say, and yes, there is beauty in waiting. Yes, there is purpose in the process. But there comes a moment, a divine appointment where the wait ends and the word begins. By this time tomorrow, that's not just a phrase, that's a heavenly countdown. That's a prophetic time, lock opening the vault of deliverance. That's when God doesn't just speak into your pain, He speaks against it. That's when His word becomes the clock, and the atmosphere begins to shift around the decree. Listen closely. When God puts a time frame on your breakthrough, it's because He's already arranged the conclusion. He doesn't guess. He doesn't gamble. He's not projecting possibilities. No, He's already seen it. The ending has already been written. The victory is not being negotiated. It's already been secured. So why tomorrow? Why that word? Because tomorrow is the place where your faith must walk even when your eyes can't see. It's the distance that separates obedience from outcome. It's the stretch between now and not yet, where all hell will try to scream, nothing's changing, but heaven is already moving the pieces into place. Think of it. How many breakthroughs in Scripture happened not over months, not over years, but in a single day. One day, the Israelites were eating scraps under siege, and by the next, there was abundance flowing through the gates. One day there was famine, the next there was overflow. The system hadn't changed, the king was still wicked. The enemy was still outside the gates, but one word from heaven rewrote the entire equation, because God doesn't need time. He only needs permission. Not from man, not from government, not from your bank, not from your emotions, but from His own authority. And when that authority speaks by this time tomorrow, all of creation aligns to make it happen. But here's what you must understand. This kind of word demands a response. Not passivity, not neutral acceptance, not spiritual laziness. No, this word requires faith in motion. You can't sit in your despair and just hope for change. You have to believe it into being. You have to wake up tomorrow expecting doors to open, chains to break, relationships to heal, bodies to be restored, finances to be reversed. Even if the numbers don't add up, even if the doctor's report still says impossible, even if the voices in your head still whisper failure, because when God speaks a word like this, everything else becomes irrelevant. Faith must rise where logic fails. You don't have to know how. You just have to believe who. And who is speaking? The one who holds time in His hands. The one who sets kings on thrones and removes them without counsel. The one who said, "Let there be," and galaxies were born. That's who said to you, by this time tomorrow. So don't look at your surroundings for confirmation. Don't ask your feelings for permission. Don't wait for someone to validate your belief. Heaven has already spoken. The countdown has begun, and yes, there may be no sign of rain, but the clouds are already forming. The answer may not have knocked yet, but the footsteps are already at the door. The shift may not have been posted, tweeted, or announced, but it is written in heaven's records, and when He speaks it, it must be so. Because if He said it, it's already done. There's a war happening, not out there, but in here. not in the streets or the governments or the chaos around you, but in the stillness of your soul. It's not a war of bullets or bombs. It's a war of belief. And the enemy knows he can't steal what God has already promised. So instead, he does what he's always done. He whispers. He whispers fear. He whispers doubt. He whispers delay. Maybe it's not your season. Maybe it's too late. Maybe you're not worthy. Maybe God forgot. You see, the greatest threat to your destiny isn't what's happening around you. It's the voice you let echo inside you. That internal verdict that says, "It'll never happen for me." That subtle agreement you've made with pain that says, "This is just the way it's always going to be." But tonight, I came to tell you heaven is canceling the agreement, because somewhere along the way, we let our delay become our identity. We stopped calling it a battle and started calling it normal. We built houses in dry places, made peace with things we were called to war against. You weren't meant to live in survival mode. You weren't created to carry that bitterness. You weren't designed to stay stuck in cycles of addiction, depression, shame, and fear. But when you wait too long, something dangerous happens. You stop believing in change. You start settling. And once you settle, you start shrinking your prayers. You stop asking for rain and start asking for just a little less heat. You stop praying for breakthrough and start praying to just make it through another day. But I need to remind you, delay is not God's rejection. It's the enemy's favorite illusion. Because if he can't destroy you, he'll distract you. If he can't defeat you, he'll delay you long enough that you start wondering if freedom was ever real to begin with. But let me declare this with the authority of heaven: the delay is over. You've been listening to the wrong voice for too long. There is a sound louder than shame, a voice stronger than fear, a decree mightier than every lie that's tried to convince you this is all there is. And that voice is thundering through your soul right now, saying, "By this time tomorrow." When God speaks that word, he doesn't just confront your situation. He confronts the voice inside of you that says it can't be done. He confronts the lie of limitation. He confronts the chains of past failure. He confronts the fear of dreaming again. Some of you have stopped dreaming. You've lowered your expectations. You've buried your vision in a grave of disappointment. But hear me, the tomb of your hope is not permanent. God is the resurrection and the life. He doesn't just restore what you had. He resurrects what you thought could never live again. This word, "by this time tomorrow," is not just about external change. It's a call to internal revolution. Because before things shift around you, they must break open within you. And what's breaking right now is not you. It's the lie. It's the fear. It's the agreement with defeat. The enemy told you that you'd never be free. He told you your family would never be healed. He told you the addiction was too deep. He told you your worth was tied to your past. But he lied, and tonight, truth is roaring back. And the truth is this: you were born for more than cycles. You were created for more than just managing pain. You are not a prisoner of your patterns. You are a child of promise. And I know you're tired. I know you've been waiting. I know the calendar feels heavy and the prayers feel unanswered. But heaven's delay is never wasted. And right now, God is not just removing obstacles, he's removing the residue of delay from your soul. He's cleansing you from the dust of disappointment. He's breaking off the fog of discouragement. He's reminding your spirit that what he spoke, he will perform. So rise up, lift your eyes, loosen your grip on yesterday. The time of delay is being swallowed by the word of deliverance. And over your weary heart, over your doubting mind, over your exhausted faith, he speaks once more: by this time tomorrow. When everything fails, when the ground beneath you feels like it's giving way, what do you stand on? You've stood on your job and it collapsed. You've stood on your health, and it faltered. You've stood on people you thought would never leave, and they did. You've stood on your plans, your strength, your systems, and all of it broke. And now here you are, in the rubble of what used to be, in the aftermath of what no longer is. The questions are louder than the answers. The silence is heavier than the noise. The foundation you thought would hold you up has cracked wide open. And everything inside of you is whispering, "This is it, you're done, you have nothing left." But I need to tell you something, not as theory, not as theology, but as truth spoken from the depths of heaven. Faith is what stands when nothing else will. When everything else falls, faith doesn't flinch. When systems break, faith steps forward. When reason runs dry, faith rises. You don't need proof when you have a word. You don't need comfort when you have conviction. And when God has spoken over your life, it doesn't matter how loud the storm is, how broken the system is, or how impossible the odds look. Faith is still standing. You see, faith isn't fragile. It's not this delicate thing that breaks in the wind. No, true faith is forged in fire. It's born in midnight. It's shaped in seasons of silence when heaven doesn't answer and hell won't let go. And if you're still breathing, still standing, even if you're standing on shaking knees, it means your faith hasn't died. It means you still carry the seed of something unbreakable inside of you. But faith doesn't wait for everything to make sense. Faith doesn't check the market. Faith doesn't ask for a second opinion. Faith believes when the system fails. It believes when the body says you're sick, but the word says you're healed. It believes when the bank account says empty, but God says provision. It believes when the world says finished, but heaven says not yet. It believes when every logical voice says move on, but your spirit hears by this time tomorrow. That's the power of faith. It hears something different. It doesn't tune in to fear's frequency. It doesn't submit to defeat's doctrine. It walks by promise, not by proof. You remember Peter, don't you? When the system said, "You can't walk on water." When nature said, "This is not possible." When logic said, "You'll drown." All he had to hold on to was one word, come. No boat, no bridge, no plan B, just the word and the willingness to believe it. That's where you are right now, not on the safety of predictability, not in the comfort of routine. You're on the edge of everything breaking, but also everything beginning, and the question is, what will you do now? Because this isn't about your strength anymore. This is about your faith. Not the faith that gets everything right. Not the faith that never doubts, but the faith that says, even if I don't see it yet, I still believe. I still believe the door will open. I still believe healing will come. I still believe the addiction can be broken. I still believe the dream can live again. I still believe because he said it, and if he said by this time tomorrow, then my faith will stand today. Not because I feel strong, but because he is. So you can take the job, take the title, take the comfort, take the system, but you can't take my faith. Because when everything else fails, when the dust settles and the smoke clears, when the support is gone and the noise dies down, when the miracles haven't shown up yet and the promises feel far away,